Today we ask the age-old question, will it drum pad? You've drummed on rubber, you've drummed on wood, you've drummed on drums, but today we take it one step further and drum on some things that maybe you've never thought of drumming on. Now, all that being said, first up, we have corkboard. Now, I thought this would be a good idea because it comes in a circle, like most drum pads do, but also, in my mind, before even testing, it seemed like something that maybe you could get some rebound off of. Who knows? So let's give this a shot and we'll see if it drum pads. Well, all right then, Cork. You're making a name for yourself in the drum pad world, I'd say. I'm kind of surprised about this, honestly. I figured it would, rebound a little bit. And, it does. It's not the greatest rebound ever, but it's much more than I thought it was going to be. Especially just kind of setting it down on the table and that's it. I didn't, put it in a base or, glue it to something. Or, you could probably glue this to a base and it would be even better. But I'm not going to do that because I have 100,000 drum pads. I don't need another one. So, will this drum pad? Yes, absolutely. All right, next up, we have hot glue. Now, I know what you're thinking. Davis, that's not a lot of hot glue. I don't know how you're going to drum on that. And you know what? Maybe I'm also thinking that. That's all the hot glue I had. At least, I put some glitter in it. I hope that gives me bonus points. But yeah, I don't know exactly how I'm going to drum on this. I might have to tape it to something. But we're going to give it a shot before anything, and maybe it just works like a charm. Well, I'll tell you what, this is going to work on my playing zones because it's tiny. Now, you can be smarter than me or just have more hot glue than me also. And you can pour this into an old plate or some sort of base. And obviously, it being glue, as it dries, it's going to stick to the thing that you pour it in. Now, I made this, and I'm like, I don't really have anything to pour it in, and I also don't have very much hot glue. So I'm just going to make a little hot glue disc, and that's exactly what I did. So that's going to have to work for now. So let's give it a shot. Well, it may be small and a little bit hard to drum on. However, we're judging the surface and how the surface feels to play on, not the size of the surface. So that being said, this thing bounces pretty well. It's hot glue, so it's pretty rubbery. I'm sure you've experimented with hot glue, especially in your childhood, gluing whatever craft together. Now, again, pouring this into a base and letting it sit there and stick would be much better and probably feel way better than this too. This is also a pretty thin layer. However, it still pretty much feels like rubber and it gets the job done. So, will it drum pad? Yeah, it drum pads. Now, I'm sure you've caught on by now. This is something that Rhett and Link from Good Mythical Morning do. And I wanted to put my own spin on it because I'm fairly certain that they are never going to do a Will It Drum Pad episode. So I took it upon myself to make one on my own. And in honor of them, I'm wearing some of their merch. Next up, we have Play-Doh. Now this Play-Doh is dried. This is sat here for a few days now. Now you might notice this base. This is my glass drum pad from another video, which you should watch. Now I'm a little nervous on this one, for sure. It's pretty hardened out. There's not much give on it. As it was drying, it seemed like around the mid-stage of it being fresh and now, right in the middle, it seemed like that would have been a great playing surface. But 2 days later, it's almost rock solid. So I'm not going to judge it too hard, even though I just did. let's try to drum on it first. You know what? It ain't bad. It ain't bad, you know? Now, if you noticed, mid-rep, it came off, which is fine because I actually wanted it to come off. Oh, you know what? Look at that. The bottom is still kind of fresh because it was like this. So let's flip it over and let's test this side. This side's also way prettier. This side is much softer and there's much more give. All right, take 2 of testing this out. Wow, this side feels so much better than this side. And this side didn't feel horrible either. All right, so now we kind of have 2 things to judge. Okay, first thoughts on the harder side. You definitely have to work for it a little bit. There's not a lot of rebound. Think of, you know, playing on just a piece of wood or like a piece of rock. I don't know, going outside and finding a rock and drumming on it. It's kind of what this felt like. Could be worse. You could be drumming on like a pillow and that would suck a lot. Now this side is still pretty rubbery actually. You know, Play-Doh's kind of rubbery. It's like malleable and stuff. So this side still has some of that and it feels much better to play on when it's fresh. Now, keeping it fresh is probably pretty hard if you're using it as a drum pad. However, maybe if you got some half fresh Play-Doh and kept it in a container and just took it out when you were ready to drum on it and made your own drum pad every time, you're like, shh, shh, shh. All right, now we have a circle. Maybe Play-Doh would be a great drum pad. Now, will it drum pad? I'm not sure, because with time, this thing is going to break and harden and eventually kind of feel like crap. But you can buy infinite Play-Doh, I guess. Now, if you noticed, on the harder side, it started to crack a little bit in the middle where I was playing. So that's something that definitely will happen. But my Play-Doh came in like a 12-pack, so I can at least make 5 more because I used 2 of them. Now, let's ask the question, will it drum pad? Yes, it drum pads, but just barely. I want to take this portion of the video to give a huge thank you to everyone who's donated to my GoFundMe so far. The support has been tremendous. I'm going to put their names on the screen right here. I have a GoFundMe set up to help support my final summer with the Blue Coats. Drum corps is getting insanely expensive, and I need help being able to do it again. So I set up a GoFundMe. I'm going to put the link in the comments down below. If you want to support or if you want to share it with people who may want to support, I would greatly appreciate that. And again, thank you to everyone who has donated even a small amount so far. It really adds up and it helps me out a lot. Thank you all. All right, next up, we have Elmer's glue. So this is a plate, a plastic plate, and I poured Elmer's glue inside of it, and that's pretty much it. There's not much else to it. If you've seen, I've made Flex Seal pads very similarly to this. Flex Seal is liquid rubber, and when it cures, it feels like rubber, and you can drum on it, and it feels great. Now, Elmer's glue, on the other hand, is not liquid rubber, it's just glue, but my brain told me maybe it's kind of similar. I don't know. So here we are to test it out. Now, I will say, this doesn't feel like rubber. I haven't drummed on it yet, but that does not feel like rubber. That's pretty rock solid. Maybe when we drum on it, it'll feel better. Let's give it a shot. Okay. Yeah, it feels like a rock. I'm not gonna lie. You can drum on it, obviously. I mean, I just played some pretty challenging things on it. However, it didn't feel great to do that, especially not as good as a drum pad or some of these other things that we've tested so far have felt. Let's talk about it a little bit. When I poured it, it was all nice and level and everything was looking great, and I was keeping up with the curing process and checking in on it daily, and it was looking good. And for a second I was like, I think this might work and I think this could be cool. And then here we are now a few days later, and it all kind of caved in and it's peeling a little bit, and it didn't really stick to the base. Maybe that's at fault of the base, but I'm gonna say that because it's Elmer's glue, it's meant to, you know, stick two pieces of paper together, not really meant to drum on. I'm gonna say that the Elmer's glue is probably at fault for that. It also is, I could probably take this out of the pad right now because it's totally peeling. Yeah, there we go. That's what we're working with, just like a frisbee of Elmer's glue all dried up. Let's see what it feels like on its own, I guess. Horrible. Will this drum pad? No. Don't make an Elmer's glue drum pad. It sucks. All right, we have one final thing to test. A pancake. Not just any pancake, a chocolate chip pancake. Because chocolate chips are delicious, especially in pancakes. So, I'm not going to waste the food. I'm going to eat it. Don't worry. I thought pancakes sounded good for breakfast today, and they're also circles, and I was making pancakes, and I was like, oh, drum pad. Don't blame me. Blame my brain. So, before I eat this pancake, this beautiful pancake that I'm pretty excited to eat, let's test it out, and let's see, can a pancake be a good drum pad? Okay, let's talk about the pros. It's quiet, it's soft, it's quiet, and it's also soft, and it's quiet and soft, and that's pretty much it. There's not many pros to this. It feels like playing on a pillow, which for building chops is great. For playing on a drum pad and hoping that it feels good, not so great. As you saw towards the end of what I was playing there, playing a roll, diddles, on a pancake doesn't work very well, and you have to work really hard to play both notes of the diddle, stroking them out very manually. This comes as no surprise to me, but will pancakes drum pad? No, pancakes will not drum pad. But I'll tell you what they will do, they will go right in my mouth. Chocolate chip pancakes, good every time. I have 2 of them right here. I'm gonna go eat these. Thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, all that stuff if you're new here. Now, if you have any ideas of some things to make drum pads out of, definitely leave those ideas in the comments down below. I'd love to make a part 2 to this sometime in the future, and I also love reading my comments and your guys' silly ideas. So leave those ideas in the comments, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Click the top link to see which material makes the best drum pad.